Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of The Process with Judah Kim. Today, my guest is Florida Wayne, a local Phoenixville singer songwriter currently fronting his own trio, the Florida Wayne Band. Over the last 20 years, he has been writing, recording, and performing his own brand of music, best described as acoustic alternative folk rock with impassioned vocals and reflective lyrics. Without further ado, Florida Wayne.
It's good to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for coming in and chatting with me here. So let's talk about The End of the World, which you released. I gave that a listen. I saw that Steven had shared that. We both know Steven because he drums for your band, and he drums for Kevin Cox's band too. So he just a little fun fact for you folks out there. So he shared The End of the World, which is a song that you can find on Spotify, Apple Music, and you have a Bandcamp and stuff.
Not a Bandcamp.
No.
You can find it almost everywhere, though.
Right.
iTunes, Amazon.
Right. If you just put Florida Wayne in and End of the World, you can find it. It features Greg Sover on guitar, too, which he did an excellent solo. So let's talk about the process of that song.
Well, the process is pretty simple. I think, trying to think, right offhand, I can't think of what was going through. I mean, I was just in a songwriting phase. I usually take time out and I get away from everything by myself, and I start writing words and writing music, and I usually can take a day or two a month, and that's where I'm by myself and I'm writing, and I don't remember exactly what was going on, but it was just something that came to me. I brought it to the band. We liked it a lot, and we crowdsourced it. We did a GoFundMe to try to raise money to record it.
Cool.
And I'd played a couple gigs with Greg Sover, and really wanted to include him and try to, co-op fan base, So I really liked his guitar sounds, and so we asked him if he would do it, and right away he got back and said, "I'd love to." And so we sent him over a live version that we had recorded, and we changed a couple things, but he just came in the studio and laid down tracks. It was definitely a treat.
Cool. Yeah, and it sounds very effortless, and the recording sounds very well produced. Chris did it at Chapman?
Yeah, Chris, yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk about before, when you get into writing phases. Now, you say writing phases, is it just kind of something that you force yourself into doing, or not force, but commit yourself to doing, I should say? Or is it something where you just all of a sudden feel inspired and you're just like, all right, I gotta get away? When you say get away, you mean work and stuff like that, family, whatever it is.
Well, inspiration comes every day. So there's not a day that I'm not writing, but there's certain times that I set aside for writing. So even if I don't have anything that has come naturally or through regular practice, I play the guitar every day. I sing every day. Sure. I write words down every day. I have a conversation. If there's something that comes out of this conversation that I think would be good in a song, I would actually notate that, and just write it down. So I've got quotes,
Oh, nice.
And so that's the days that I actually set aside are just, I know that I'm going to have the house to myself on this weekend. So I'm going to force myself to sit down with the purpose of writing a song. I'm always thinking about writing songs. I'm always thinking, oh, that would be a great song, or this, if you hear a topic or you hear something or you're a part of conversation, I'll take notes, and that because I think, well, that would be a great song. Maybe that would be a great song idea. And so I'm always gathering information. So the inspiration for songs, I think, is day to day. But the set aside time is just to go, I'm definitely going to try to write something.
It's where
I'm going to assemble it.
Take all your data and then kind of...
And sometimes I can get all that data and I can write a full song without setting that time aside. But if if I don't, you know, it's just I want to work on my craft. So I always want to set aside where I'm purposeful with my time.
Right.
And so if I'm not purposeful, then I'll end up in a, you know, Steel City drinking coffee and not, you know, focusing on writing songs, you know. So
I like that. So I guess there are two things I kind of want to ask. When you're saying that you set aside a time, I do that for myself too. I write almost every day, and I'm with you on that. Do you feel like when you're writing though, when you have to commit yourself to this time, does it affect your sort of expectations of what you're gonna write? And do you like sort of release like everything? And do you have a lot of like for me, I like I probably release like 10, I probably like have recorded and performed maybe like 10% of what I've written. You know what I mean?
oh,
And
definitely.
how do you feel about that? What's your experience with all that, psychologically, emotionally, etc.?
I think early on it was like I worked on everything and it had to be start to finish. It was like I had to finish it.
Right.
And so I wouldn't move on to the next thing, but as I've written, I don't want to force things. So I've noticed is that early on is that I end up with I might have a good verse and a good chorus, but then the second verse it feels forced. And you know, it's like I tried to make these words rhyme and fit into this song and it doesn't really work. So what I've done is pulled away from that and said, you know what? I like it, but it's not done. And so I can shelf it and keep coming back to it. And that's one of the things I do when I take time is that I'll play through those half-written songs and just see if something, you know, comes up. And then I'll go through my notes and I'll see, well, this applied here. So I've actually had like something that had been written for a long period of time where I've pulled another conversation that I had and that I had notes on that I'm like, that really fits what I'm trying to say in this song. And I've actually been able to pull that into that and then complete a song.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of learning to step away now because if I get super impatient, especially when you feel like, or when I feel like the song is good, like the song's like, oh shit, this is a great verse, this is a great chorus, like, but that second verse blues, if you ever, that's what I used to call it, it's just, and sometimes it's the bridge too, sometimes it's the middle eight, and you're just like, God damn it. Why can't I just find this part?
I don't get caught up in the bridge so much. I mean, I don't, because I convinced myself that it doesn't, you don't need to have, if you have a solid song, you don't have to have a bridge. It's nice to have it, and I always want to have that because I always want that transition.
Right.
You want that reflective side of the song to come in the bridge, but I've let that go as, you know, more than I have like the second verse. You know, for me it's always the second verse or the third verse, and I've never had a song where I've had so many verses where I had to pick something like, well, I like this and I don't like this. It's always been I'm too short of words, you know. I always feel like I'm too short on something.
Right.
The music has always been the easy part of me in writing. Does
that come first?
It doesn't come first. I mean, I would say most of the time it doesn't come first. But just in writing, I think I come up with cool riffs and then I lose them. And if I don't record them, it's like I lose them. But most of the time it starts with the words and it starts with a feeling, reflecting on something, you know. But I've tried so many different variations of writing because I don't want to get caught in doing the same thing over again. Verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, you know, and then and you get caught in that in a cycle and formula of writing. I've always challenged myself to do other things. So like I've had some songs where I've written the music first and then come back and done the lyrics. But in generally I do write the words first. And then the music comes in, or I write in, and it varies, is the best way to describe it, because I've done everything from going, we're going to do, most of the time I'm just writing words, and a lot of times I don't even care if it's if it rhymes, or if I'm like not really even writing poetry, but just wording like stream of thought, and trying to stay in the same idea, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like I said, I've challenged myself to do multiple things.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, early on when you write, I don't know if you had the same thing, but, you know, playing guitar, you know, being young, playing the guitar and writing songs,
Yeah.
everything's very linear and your words match up with your chords. And so
Yeah.
I noticed that, and I was like, well, I need to start playing the guitar
Mm-hmm.
and singing over the guitar and not worrying about what matching up with the
strum.
strum of the
Yeah.
guitar, you know,
Right.
and get out of that. So you start playing like, you know, 3/4, and singing over top of it straight,
Mm-hmm.
instead of singing matching that 3/4. You know, you're singing the words straight. So for me, it's just about challenging myself to do something different, but at the same time, working it out so it's a whole song. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, so sounds like you definitely mix it up. Typically though, you'll start with the words, kind of go from there. Does the melody then come, or is it guitar, and then you start singing, kind of trying to shape a melody with the words? Does it work like that?
For me, it's so I have the words, and then I come up with a chord structure, and then I'm singing that melody over top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been plenty of times where if I'm just playing a chord structure that I like, and then just I'll come up with a harmony before I come up with words.
Huh.
And so then you have where you're singing nonsense
Yeah.
and working out that harmony, and then you're putting the words in, and then sometimes I'm reflecting back to other stuff that I wrote, and I already have this harmony in mind, and I'm like, well, does this fit into that? Does this fit into that? And so I'm taking
Keep going.
mixing up stuff that I've already written and seeing, well, does this fit into this melody that I'm working on?
Oh, I see. That's cool. Okay, so how do you find the right chords then? Do the words sort of dictate your mood, or I mean, so you already I guess have a vibe, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
know what the words are. So then do you kind of like think about the chords, or is it just you just start playing?
I just start playing because I'm self-taught, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't think in musical terms. I don't
Yeah.
think in music theory. I don't think in I think in feeling. Does this feel right? You know, it's like, is this something where do I want the melody to contrast off of a simple chord structure, because you can do like a simple chord structure of 2 chords. I just wrote a song where I'm just kind of like, almost like the best way for me to describe would be is dumbing down the chords. So I'm not doing a lot chord wise. I'm letting the melody be the front part of that, and learning how to structure the song where the chord structure doesn't have to be, you know, 4 chords and that's dictating it, but simplifying and making the melody more the best feature of the song more than the music.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I think just listening to that song and after hearing you play before, it's funny that because like sonically our musical styles are definitely different, and it's just funny that we have like this, we think about it and approach it kind of the same way. We look at it in a lot of similar ways, and maybe even have some of the same challenges too. So that's what I want to talk about next. Is like, so is it? Would you say it's like you kind of, to be dramatic, suffer for it sometimes? Like, do certain songs take longer, and like, what is it mostly like?
Well, definitely there's use the word suffering. I mean, I probably have 5 songs right now that aren't done,
Mm-hmm.
but I think are some of the best songs that I've written.
Right.
And every time you go to them and you play them and you're like, you wow yourself with what you've created, but you can't, it's not complete.
Right.
And I think that's the hardest part for me, because
You want to get it out there.
you want to get it out, you want to show it, you want to share it, but at the same time you want it to be done.
Yeah.
That part I think is the hardest part for me. I do think, if there was ever a time where writing music was like my full-time job, what would that look like? I think that would be harder. I think than where I am, where I do it part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And to really have writer's block, I can kind of like, I can use the excuse I'm busy at work, or I'm doing this, or I got my hand in this and I got my hand in that. But if I was doing it full time, I think it would be harder on me.
It's definitely trade-offs. It's like, I feel like when you are working another job, you can miss it. You can certainly miss it. I was doing it. I was just focusing on music. I still am just focusing on music, and it's just I have to step away because I drive myself crazy. I really do. And I try to do more life experience, because it's so, like, I just find myself alone so much. Not like that I'm lonely necessarily, but it's just like I'm in solitude so much that I need to just like step away, let the work breathe. I think that's what you're saying sometimes that you need to do. You just kind of have to let it breathe, and then like collect more ideas, or maybe even stumble upon something that like, oh yeah, that could actually work for the part that I'm missing, or whatever, like lyrically or musically or whatever. But then there's the songs that just like fall out of the sky,
exactly.
click, right? And it's just, what is it about that, man? Why is that so effortless? It's like you're not thinking about it, and then it comes. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's what makes it worth it. It's the songs that, End of the World is a song that was just one of those songs that just fell in my lap. It was like the words came easy. It was all written in the same session. It was just I wrote the verse part, and everything just fell in the place, and I didn't have to think about it, and it was a done song.
Nice. So then afterwards you were like super excited, and you're like, all right, well, I can show the band now.
Yep.
Like
and
that.
we bring it to the band, and both those guys are so incredible. Steve, he only needs to hear a song once, and he's right there. And then Rob is, I think he's like a savant. He can just
He's awesome, actually. Yeah.
He just listens to stuff on the radio, and he can play along. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's pretty damn good. I had met him for the first time at Still City Open Mic last week, and I was rather impressed with his solo material as well.
Definitely.
From him being a songwriter. So more on that. Like, how does the band like shape the music then? Does your arrangements change at all?
They change some, and for me, I think it changes for the better, because all I'm bringing to them is bare bones. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a micromanager, and like I said, I don't think on a level of, this is the way I want the drums to go, this is the bass line I hear. Mm-hmm. When I write music, it's usually acoustic guitar and vocals. Mm-hmm. And so when I bring it to them, usually I won't even bring it to them until I can remember the words. So we're not even working on stuff that might be done, and I'm still trying to learn the words,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm comfortable singing.
Oh, so you're pretty good at being patient with yourself, I think. Like being okay with not having stuff completed and shelving it, and then moving on to other stuff and working on that. And then also, like, once it's done, you're like, all right, well, now I gotta remember the words before I bring it to the band. That takes a little.
The thing is that they're so good, and we're not, with the band, we're actually playing more live shows than we're practicing. Mm-hmm. I don't practice a lot with them.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's better practice, honestly. Because, when you're out there, like, you get nervous, and then all of a sudden, like physiologically, your body does stuff that affects your playing. Like, and it's important to pay attention to that stuff. I've learned. Like all of a sudden, if I start to like clench harder because I'm nervous, then that's gonna affect my speed on the guitar and my transitions. So if I'm the more aware of it I am, then I'm just like, all right, chill out, lighten up, you know.
Yeah, I just try to make sure that I'm comfortable playing it, because those guys, they can follow me anywhere. So it's almost 100% where I am comfortable. So when we introduce new stuff, it's usually I'm good to go, you know, usually.
Right.
Somebody had asked me, we did a podcast for Round Guys Brewing, and they said, well, when do you know when a song's done and ready to go? And I said, when I remember the words. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. It's good. So like, what do you always have like? I get disillusioned, I guess is the best word. I like get really excited. I feel like the novelty of writing anything new for me, like, it never gets old. Like, that's part of why I keep doing it, is that joy, right? But then, like, you know, I'll play it out. I'll play like a bad show, or when my mind is a bad show, and then I'll just think of that the song is terrible, you know, or I'll bring it to the guys I'm playing with, and I'm just like, you know, it's not really that good, or I'll even go as far as recording it, and then I'll be like, you know what, no, I really, you know, thought it was kind of like, I don't know what I was thinking. You know, does that ever happen to you, or do you kind of just know?
I don't know that I know. I think I've got a lot of material right now, and trying to figure out what's the best fit for the band, and that, because with the band we're doing like more like a high energy, you know, and when I play solo, it's minus that high energy, and so I can play a little bit more like slower songs, more folky songs per se, and so a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out, well, is this song like a song that the band should do? And not that the band doesn't do like slower songs, it's just, what do I think is gonna fit the best? But I do have songs where I'm like, I don't know, you know, is this, I liked it when I wrote it, but now I just don't think that it's I don't know, for me it's all about the hook, you know, can you write a hook where people walk away singing it, you know? Do I walk away singing it after I play it? Do I still have that same attraction to the song that I once had, you know?
Right, yeah.
There's a lot of I listen to a lot of local bands, and I always know if one of their songs is good if I like wake up in the morning and I'm singing. I always like it if I wake up singing like a local artist song, and I always like letting them know I woke up singing this song, singing these words.
Right,
and,
right. I don't know. That happens with bad songs too. Like, stuck in my head. I'm like, this is terrible. What am I singing?
I mean, music is still art, you know, so it's still in the eye of the beholder, you know.
Absolutely,
so you're gonna
yeah.
have people that love one song that you think is, it's okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. It's you're absolutely right. It's you know, it's completely subjective. So then.
And different songs are going to speak to different people differently. So, you know, you could
Yeah,
write a song that you think is like a filler, you know,
Mhm.
like this song is an album filler. I wrote it. I
Right.
like it. It's okay, but it's not like my favorite song, you know.
Yeah.
And another person's going to, you know, that hears it, it's just going to speak to them in a way that they really enjoy it, and it means the world to them, you know.
Yeah. So then it's like, has that happened to you recently, where people are just like, I like this one, and you're just like, oh really? That's funny.
I know that I have had it, not anything recently.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get out of this this idea that we need to release albums.
Yeah, no, me too, and it's not something I'm comfortable with, but
I'm not comfortable with it either. There's a part of me that likes it because it forces us as the artist to like go, this is the best thing that I have right now. I'm gonna go record it and I'm gonna release it.
hmm
And then part of the pros to that for me is that what first thing is cost. It doesn't cost as much to do a single.
just gonna say that. Yep,
Um,
exactly.
and then the other pro is that you're putting all your eggs in that basket because you said this song, I like it good enough that I'm going to go spend money to record it.
hmm
And I always felt like when I recorded a CD where I did 5 or more songs on it, that there was always like, I really like this song. This song's okay.
Uh-huh.
And this song is just a filler song, you know?
Yeah.
And so then you started grading your own album. And it's like, you want everything to be great, but it just doesn't ever work out that way.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is like when you do a single, you can devote all your energy to it. Whereas if you're doing 5 songs, you know you have to pay for an allotted amount of studio time. Whereas with one song, if you're paying for, an entire day or two, then that you can take your time and make it the best thing that it can be. So that's definitely a benefit of the single.
And then you get the other thing is that you get the benefit of really listening to your producer.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else with a different set of ears that's listening, saying, "Hey, have you thought about doing this? Or have you thought about doing that?" You can't be using that kind of time doing a whole album and having a producer go through. I mean, unless you're signed to a record label and they're paying you to be in the studio, and the producer is like, looking at everything in every song. But even then, those albums end up with really good songs and songs that never really see the light of day.
That's right, yeah. B-sides even too.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin and I were talking about, like, you go in, like, I always read up on my favorite bands. They go in with, like, 40 to 50 songs, and you hear 10 of them on the record. And so, about the single thing, too. So, the single thing, obviously, is kind of a reaction to, like, what's happening in the industry now. So how do you think that, like, that is affecting your writing, or does it at all? Like, as far as, okay, I have to, like, I have to gain people's attention somehow, And I feel like it's not always through the music first. It's, like, more like either, like, a money game with, like, playlisting, putting your stuff on the right playlists, or just somehow creating some kind of viral attention on social media that has nothing to do with music, really.
Yeah.
So how does that affect your writing? Or does it?
I don't think it affects my writing. I think live shows a lot of times affects my writing.
Mm-hmm.
Having a good live show where
Mm-hmm.
people are responding, and that to what you've written inspires me to go to the drawing board, to keep going back to that well of, I want to do something better. I want to do something different. And the industry in itself, I don't pay too much attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with the singles is that everything's on iTunes, everything's on Spotify.
Yeah.
So I don't even make CDs anymore. I have a CD that we sell at our table.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a live CD from Chaplin's.
Oh, cool.
And I call it an unedited version. It's raw, and it's the band early on, and
That's cool.
but we promote ourselves on Facebook, Reverb Nation. We've got an EPK with them, and we try to get into different festivals and stuff like that, because we're trying to play. It's not even about, even with me, it's not even about the money. We play so many free gigs probably play more free gigs a year than we do paying gigs. And it's just, for me, it's all about, how do I get an opportunity to be in front of somebody that hasn't heard my music?
It's all about playing live.
So it's all about playing live, and having those opportunities where things go really well, and encourages me. And then you have the shows that are discouraging, so you go to a show where there's like 2 people there.
Yeah.
But getting out and playing, I think, is more important to me than where the industry is going, where, like I said, the whole thing with the single thing is industry driven.
Yeah.
Because back in the day it was about CD sales. One of the first like real CDs that I did, like in a studio CD, was with a band called the Jeff Greer Band, and we were buying like 2,000 CDs at a time to get the lowest cost per CD, but we were selling them wherever we played, where anybody that heard us for the first time would buy a CD.
Right.
People tell me that they love what we're doing, but we don't sell CDs. It's like, because people they're streaming or they're buying. I even put something on Facebook recently. I'm like, I can get 1,000. I think I said million. I said 1 million listens. I might make $25 on streaming.
Right.
I said, but 1 million, iTunes purchases at 99 cents. I might make $400,000.
I know.
So please buy it.
Please buy.
Please spend 99 cents.
So I like that. I mean, it's you're. It seems like you're more concerned with proving yourself alive, so that people will actually go and seek you like online, and that's sort of like your ideal in your head, right? Versus like trying to go.
But every
online.
time you end up with the norms of the music industry, every time you think that you're playing by their rules, the next person that's coming up they weren't playing by their rules. They were creating their own rules.
Yeah.
And so I think it's about finding your art, loving what you do, and do it to the best of your ability. And if people are going to come along, they're going to come along. If they don't, then they don't. I mean, and you still love what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's sort of a reward in and of itself. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what inspires your lyrics?
Life.
Yeah.
I think. I started writing in the church, so I started writing worship songs.
Oh, cool.
So like the first songs that I've ever written were, I didn't even have to write the words. I would look in the Bible and I would write songs, for the church I was going to.
Okay.
And so that's where it came out of. And then as I continued to write, I was writing my own songs. And so a lot of what I write is just my perception on life, my struggles, my strengths. I used to say, that it's a lot of my music is written through a perspective of hope, faith, and love.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and focusing on the realities of that, not the pie in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, the real life in the depths, in the trenches of what that really feels like and what that really looks like. Mm. But I still like to write in a vagueness where someone else makes that their own song. They come up with the meaning for it, not me telling you what it is.
Yeah, I like that too. To create some sort of ambiguity, if you will. So that's kind of just, it's there, but it's sort of up for grabs, kind of.
Yeah, and people can take from it what they will, and they can come from any background where they've come from and apply it to themselves, or apply it to certain things. I don't usually write very specific songs, but even then I wrote about a pastor that passed away that was a spiritual father to me, and that really played that role of a father in my life. And he had passed away, and I wrote a song that was very specific about his life, and I actually almost was never even going to record it or even release it because it was very specific. But I'm glad I did, because I've had a lot of people that have listened to that song, and they've just come to me with their own, people in their lives that had passed away, and it really spoke to them. So I was really glad that I released that song.
That's awesome. That's really beautiful. Musically, who are some of your musical heroes? Or obviously in the beginning it was sort of gospel music or church music in the church.
I've been influenced by music for a long time. Mm-hmm. Before I even stepped foot in a church. So like early on, like my influences would have been like Elton John and Bernie Taupin, James Taylor.
They're making a movie about Elton John's life. See that?
I didn't know that.
I just saw Captain Marvel yesterday, and they had the previews for Rocket Man. It looks really good. Gosh. It looks really, really good.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to take a look at that.
Interesting though. So Elton John, Bernie Taupin,
James Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my parents have quoted me as like a 3-year-old saying, "When I grow up, I want to be Elton John." I didn't know that it was Bernie Taupin that was writing most of the lyrics. Obviously, when you're 3 years old,
right.
you just know Elton John. And so like that was some of my musical influence. And then I'm gonna age myself a little bit. In 1984, I got my first Walkman, and my parents said I could get 2 cassettes, and the 2 cassettes that I got were Van Halen, 1984.
Nice.
And Michael Jackson, Thriller. So I had a nice little range there.
Nice. I actually just listened to a podcast with David Lee Roth, who was talking about lyric writing, and he was just like, he was kind of saying what you were saying. It's like, always like be ready with words, but you always want to like have he's talking very, very, not like directly. He was almost talking purposefully vague so that it was like you had to pick it apart yourself. Mm-hmm. But he was saying like make sure you have a bag of words always and keep that in the front. And then I think it was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he asked him like, so how long did it take you to write this song? And then he was like, he gave him some weird answer like, it took me my whole life to write this song, all my life experience up until then. Which I thought is kind of an interesting experience. It's a little out there, but it's also kind of interesting to think like, yeah, I guess like you had to live this amount of life to write a certain song, to write this song. And I bring that up now because I have just unearthed this song. It's probably like 10, 12 years old or something. And I couldn't for the life of me get like the next part in the song. I had like the verse and the hook, but it was just missing something. And the part that I added to it was just not working. I was banging my head on it for a while, but like, I just unearthed it, and I've been sitting around lately, and it just clicked, and it's just weird. Like, it's almost like, like time traveling, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, an idea sort of Definitely. Time travels, and then it, like, pieces together with something else. Like, it had to wait that long. It's almost kind of how I'm looking at it, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Because the thing that keeps me... Like, part of the reason I love songwriting is because of how frustrating it can be, because... when it clicks together, sometimes it's the most simple thing, and it's like the answer's right in front of you always. Sometimes mm-hmm. It's just a matter of 3 chords, and you're just like, that's it? Why didn't I think of that before? Like it's right there. Mm-hmm. It's got like almost like think of it as looking at the sky. Like there's the same 3 ingredients. The sun, the sky, and the clouds. Or with music, it's melody, rhythm, harmony. But, if you put them together in a certain way, it can always just amaze you still. It sort of never really gets old,
Yeah. To me, sometimes songwriting is like putting puzzles together.
Yeah.
And you got all the pieces are there, and sometimes the pieces aren't where you think they are. So you have this puzzle that you started a couple years ago, and all the most of the pieces are there. And then 10 years down the road, you're working on another puzzle that's not even related to that, but it has the piece that fits in that puzzle that you were working.
You're so right. Yeah, you could be working on something and then like, wait, this works with this song. You're like, oh yeah, and you're like, eureka! It's so weird.
And that's
how
the
it
magic
works.
of music, is that we can pull from other
Mhm.
things to complete something else. You
Yeah.
know.
It's definitely a good reason to just continue to like compile ideas. Um, with the advent of like the smartphone, I use the voice memos a lot, and
Same.
for a while I think it was last year where I started to change up my process a little bit. I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna write riffs, like 10 a day. So I did that for like a month, and came out with like 30 or so ideas, or sorry, it was whatever the math is there, 10 times 30, right? So it's be like 300. I think it was closer to like 50 or something, because I think it was more like 5 ideas a day. So I did that, and then I sort of just went through and was able to pick and choose and build off like a riff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing a lot of. I got a loop pedal, and I said, instead of just like strumming, because I want to get out of like my usual rhythmic feel. So I was like, all right, I want to write stuff that I can't necessarily sing and play.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just start with like a riff and a loop, and kind of just like play the loop back continuously, and just like kind of write a melody over that. What also works for me too is like, instead of singing, I'll use the piano to help me to write a melody, because I guess I feel sort of lazy with my melody sometimes. There's like the cliche melody that I like to go to. I can't just tell you what it is. It's like, all right, I don't want to sing that, because it's just I want to there's other notes that I can use, and the piano is like super helpful. I don't know if you have experimented with that at all, but you were talking about some other processes that you.
Well, I mean, talking about
too.
technology in the songwriting process, is definitely the loop pedal has been a huge asset to me.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to loop a rhythm that you like, and to not think about playing guitar while you're thinking about the words. Or if you have like sometimes I have like a theme and I have an idea that I want to apply to this song, but I don't have the structure of the melody, or even the structure of the words, and you can just kind of like mumble through it. And you can I don't play piano, so I don't think melody in the idea of piano, but the loop pedal for me has been, it's been really good. Because before, what I used to do was I had a little 4-track, and I would record
Tascam.
a little Tascam 4-track, and I would record the guitar part, and then go back over and just listen to it over and over again. Or I'd have it in my car, and I would listen to it in the car.
Cool.
And then just trying to get just in that building phase. And so technology has definitely helped out, especially with the loop pedal. I know that I use it regularly. I've never used it live.
Mm-hmm.
I may have used it like doing a farmer's market or something, where I'm playing for like 4 hours, but
I've scaled back on the loop pedal though. I was using it heavily like last year, but this year I went back to the guitar, because I was like, because I had broken up with my band recently, so I was like, all right, I want to write stuff that I can actually play out by myself.
mm-hmm.
Because I do the live looping myself, but I don't know. There's certain things that you can't represent live on the acoustic guitar, like riff-based things. You can't really get the girth of the electric guitar. Do you ever play electric guitar on stage?
At home, but I don't regularly play. I don't play electric. I have a tendency to really grip when I play. It's when I play live, it's very emotional. It's I had a good compliment. We played on Friday night in Lansdale at the Underground.
Oh, cool.
And somebody had messaged me and said, this might seem a little bit creepy, but I really like the way that it looks like you're like feeling the way you play, what you're playing and what you're singing.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
And I'm like, it's not creepy at all, and it's really good feedback for me. Thank you very much. You know.
Yeah, you guys are
And
definitely
so,
very energetic and tight, for sure.
so I've been trying to teach myself to play electric live and just be kind of relaxed with my fingers. But if I when I, you know when you grip an electric guitar, everything sounds out of tune.
Yeah, I mean, or you could play 11s or 12s, just up your string
Yeah.
gauge. I think BB King plays like 12s, and he doesn't cut them at all. He just,
Hmm.
Is he still alive? I can't remember. Is he gone now?
I'm not sure.
I think somebody told me that he doesn't really play that many chords too. But when he plays like 12 and just rips them up. You know, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I want to manhandle the electric guitar, so I've stayed with the acoustic. I played the heaviest gauge strings I can find.
Yeah.
Usually Martin SPs, but
I like the elixirs. I play it so much. I need to have something that like lasts. I love Martins though. The red Martins. I was using them for a while. But I'd go through them like.
yeah, the SPs are usually blue. Usually the phosphorus bronze is what I use. When I was going through, I played in a band that we toured up and down the East Coast, and every night I was breaking strings.
Did
And,
you really? Yeah.
and somebody said, try the elixirs, and I tried them, and I was still breaking them. And then we were, got a hold of the Martin SPs, and I was still breaking them, but they weren't breaking at the same rate. And then I switched the gauge pick that I was using.
Okay.
And I went from like I think it's a 73 now that I'm using, but I was using a heavier gauge pick, and I went down on the pick. And now I don't have that problem as much, but I still get I can't play too many shows without the G string uncoiling.
Really?
It doesn't break, but it breaks. The coil breaks.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, so So you're a trio now. Have you thought of bringing another guitarist in or another member in at this point?
Yeah, I've thought about it, and I would love to have a lead guitarist, but the whole deal, like the Florida Wayne thing, started off with me getting out of doing band stuff and was doing solo stuff.
Gotcha.
And Steve came along and it was like, well, you can play a little bit, and I really liked what he was doing, and then we were playing small venues. We can do acoustic guitar and drums, and it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But then we had some people that wanted us to play festivals, so we knew that we needed to get a bass player. And we added, and what I told Steve was, as long as it's an easy transition and we don't have to do a bunch of practicing. So it's probably the same where I am right now. As long as if we picked up somebody, it would be somebody that would be able to just sit in and be able to play right away.
Like Rob.
Yeah, like Rob did.
I think he was playing with he was playing with that one girl, and she was like, yeah, he never heard that song before, and I was like, what? Really? Like he got all the transitions down. I was like, wait a second, that's pretty impressive. Not even
Yeah, like I said, savant.
Yeah. Pretty damn good. So what is next for you guys? You said you have some festivals coming up?
Nothing is back with us yet, but we're doing this series called we named it the Tres Banditos tour, and just every month 3 Phoenixville bands, three-piece bands out of Phoenixville playing together and kind of rotating, who's the headliner.
Oh.
And so we did a show in Chaplin's in February, and Simple Fires was the headliner. March, the one we just did in Underground, we were the headliner. We're playing Fens in Westchester, and the Climaxers are the headliner.
Cool.
And then May was supposed to be another date, but Simple Fires had to back out of that. But LaBella and Poole are filling in for them.
Love those guys.
And that's at Steel City in May. I think it's May 18th, maybe.
Oh, nice.
It's a Saturday.
So yeah, you're staying pretty busy. I like that. That's pretty clever. What do you call it? The Tres Banditos.
The Tres Banditos tour.
Yeah, that's nice.
But I like it, number one, because they're three, well, I should say two. They're two really good bands. We're all slightly different in the way we sound, but we're all really good. And we're all pulling from different fan bases. And so as we rotate, the headliner, it's just nice to be able to go to a show where everybody's going to be good. Everybody's going to make everybody else want to do better.
Plus, I mean, you can sort of anticipate the logistics too of everything from, like you're saying.
Well, it's easy when it's all three pieces too.
Yeah, like the equipment.
It's real easy switchovers.
That's pretty good. Definitely keeps you playing too, because that's one of the questions I was going to ask you. Is like, so being able to play within the same area, but at the same time not being able to not like overtaxing yourself or becoming
with the
boring,
band
if you will, stale.
Yeah, with the band for me is because I have a full-time job and everybody else has a full-time job in the band. My goal usually is one big show a month. And it's pretty easy for us to do that with, we have like this triangle of places that we play pretty regularly, which is Chaplin's, Steel City Coffee House, and the Underground in Lansdale. And so, and it also keeps us in that, like, actually Chaplin's in Steel City doesn't, but venues used to have this rule. I don't know if they still do. I know that Steel City still tries to go by it, but 30 days, 30 miles away shows, They don't want you to play within 30 days, 30 miles.
I think Philly's more like 2 weeks, something like that. Yeah. But yeah, that's good though. I like the Trace Banditos tour I did. It's good. Doing festivals is always a good way to sort of get people. It's to kind of like, I don't know where the festivals are that you're doing, but like it's always a good way to get like new fans too.
Definitely.
And built-in crowd. You don't really have to promote it like you would your own show. They're likely to buy merch too. I remember doing like the Millennium Music Conference back in the day and Launch. I forget which one was out in Lancaster, but one of them was Harrisburg. One of them was and yeah, I mean, people out in those places too are usually a lot more receptive to live music because
they're going out to hear live music.
Well, I mean, like everybody comes to Philly, but bands won't really come to the smaller towns, So that's what I hear anyway. I mean, we I mean, back in the day, we had like two like awesome fans, made two awesome fans out, and it's always nice. All right, so we're almost at an hour. Is there anything that you wanted to mention, or? I think you gave me some really good insight into your writing process, and came across some good similarities.
Definitely. I always one of the things I always like to do is talk to other writers. Some guys don't like talking about their process, and other people are just like an open book. And I always
ask me anything. I'm down. I love to hear the sound of my own voice.
No, I think I've learned a lot. It sounds like there's a lot of similarity in the way we write. Like I said, my whole thing is just challenging myself, and trying not to get into the same method, because I tend to sound the same or start going down the same rabbit hole or.
Yeah, so where's that line though? Because I after I've written something, then it's like, all right, this is great, but I don't want to write anything else like that ever again. like I scrutinize everything about it. Like, okay, I can't repeat the same feel. I can't have the same chord structure, and it's just like,
My problem is going back to like a certain tagline, like not even like vocally, but on the guitar. I noticed, reflecting back on an album that I did, where it almost like this crutch came up to me after everything was done. I didn't even think about it at the time, because I used the capo, and sometimes you don't think but it's the same the same progression.
Mm-hmm.
It might be different notes,
Right.
but it's the same progression, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, that progression became a hook, so now I stay away from it completely,
Right.
because I heard it like in like 4 of the like 9 songs that I had on the CD. I had this progression that was like this walk down that was like C. It was like a C B A like walk down that was like, I heard it. I don't know if anybody else heard it.
Right.
I had an old drummer that pointed it out to me. He's like, and I'm like, I already know about it.
Like, you like doing that, don't you? It's like, fuck you, I already know about it.
I already know. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it always sucks when and if somebody points it out. But I think, or I should say, I guess people don't notice that stuff. I don't know.
I don't think the general listener notices it.
Probably not.
Like I said, I noticed it after I was done with it, and so now it's like in the songwriting process. If I do that, I'm like, oh, slow down. Let's be a little bit more original.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff is like I always try to like block it out of when I'm starting. Sometimes like, you're just right, all right, just stop getting so critical. Like it's like it just all of a sudden happens. Like all of a sudden, like you start to get critical. I started to get critical right away, and it's like, all right, I gotta just like chill, all right, just let it happen. And it's not like set in stone. I can change it. You know, I have to like deliberately tell myself these things, because I'm always like thinking like, here you go again with that. Here comes that lyric line or that subject or that chord progression too.
Yeah.
So there's another thing. It's like coming up with the same subjects again. You're like, oh wait, I'm writing about this again. It's like, or is it a testament to your creativity? To use the same thing but in a different way. This is where I drive myself nuts, because it goes back to that conversation of almost like, all right, it's all so subjective, and it's all like, who are you writing for in the end? Right.
Yeah, I just, for me, it's ultimately it's what sounds good to you. But when you do something, when you get into a hang up, there's no amount of organic songwriting that you don't recognize when you're going to that well again. That's what I guess what I'm getting at is that if something fits, it's gonna fit. And I think that hopefully that I'll realize like I need to, that just fits there, but just in the process, it will, if I play that chord progression, it's like stabbing myself in the heart, and it's like, don't do it, but no, I love the struggle. I love the suffering. I like that I have completed songs. I have songs that are done that will probably never see the light of day. I love that I have stuff that I think are genius that aren't finished. Right. And that's probably a mixed bag of stuff that probably won't see the light of day versus the stuff that I think is genius too. But because I always have something to come to. Mm-hmm. Every time I sit down, there's times that I sit down and all I do is play guitar. I just come up, because I'm not trained. I pick up a guitar and I'm like trying to figure different chords that I think I created and different sounds, and like how can I create this sound, a certain sound or a unique sound. Mm-hmm. So there's always something to come to, even if lost my train of thought.
That's all right. So there's
I mean, there's just always something there. So and that's, I think that's where my love of the songwriting is. You know, is that
it's like a playground.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's definitely like, I think that's a great description. You know, going to a playground, if just playing the guitar isn't enough, I've got these songs that aren't done. I've got these ideas, you know, written down that aren't even songs. They're just either poems or thoughts.
So you'll have most of the words done before you pick a guitar. Just to go back to originally you were saying.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, everything's in pieces.
But it starts with the words, though, right?
Most of my songs start either with an idea or words, or you know, I wrote a whole song based off of 3 sentences Steve said to me that I wrote down.
Oh yeah.
And I turned it into a whole song. He said these 3 things that were just I found contradicting and weird to me, and but I had to write them down, you know. And when I wrote them down, it created a whole song. I mean, I wrote,
awesome.
You know, and I didn't write the word. Those are just the words.
Uh-huh.
Then I hadn't even sat down and written music to it.
Uh-huh.
So, and then I get back, you know. Even that song is the music is real simple because the words are so contradicting and weird when you think about it.
Okay, that's cool.
So it's not a done song. It's in the file of done, but we're working on it.
Nice. Well, thanks for coming along today. I think we covered a lot of good ground.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Florida Wayne, you can find him on Spotify, Apple iTunes, Amazon, everywhere online that music is sold. And your social medias?
Facebook, Reverb Nation. That's pretty much it.
No Instagram, Twitter?
Not yet.
No, he's getting there. It's Florida Wayne, exactly as you think it would be spelled, and also you can check the information on this podcast as well. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me on episode 2 of The Process with Judah Kim.